What should be included when you're providing an early intervention program for students that incorporates both ABA and speech, occupational and physical therapy? Today, we are talking about that with our guest, Erin Stern. Erin Stern is a BCBA with a strong foundation in special education, and she's the founder and president of STEPS Behavioral Health. We talk today, and what you'll learn in this episode is how can you support early learners? What does the intake look like? What are appropriate assessments? And how do you determine intervention? I think this is a question that we get a lot. And Erin and I talk about this at length in this episode. You are going to learn that good therapy will happen through play. I love that because what Erin is speaking about and what she provides at STEPS Behavioral Health really aligns with what we do in the ABA Speech Connection. With the ABA Speech Connection, we provide CEUs for both speech therapists, RBTs, and BCBAs. And we love to have that focus on naturalistic interventions. How can we integrate ABA with speech therapy to help maximize our client outcomes and to help our students be ready for school? And that is what we're talking about today. Let's get into this conversation with Erin Stern. I'm Rose Griffin, a speech therapist, board-certified behavior analyst, and founder of ABA Speech. It wasn't all that long ago that I felt overwhelmed by providing therapy for my autistic students and any students who were not yet speaking. Fast forward through many doubts, tears, research, and courses, and you will see the framework that I use today and share with over 60,000 readers weekly. One that will help you support your students and feel more confident in the process. I created the ABA Speech podcast to give you simple, step-by-step strategies to help you reach all of your students wherever they are on their communication journeys. If you're a speech therapist, BCBA, RBT student, or parent who's looking to help all students develop a way to communicate with the world, you are in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Welcome to the show, Erin Stern. I'm so happy that you are here.
Thank you so much, Rose, for having me. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and have me on the show.
Of course. So you are the president of STEPS Behavioral Health. When did you know that you wanted to run a clinic? I feel like that is such a big undertaking and something that I don't run a whole clinic, but as part of what we do at ABA Speech, we offer teletherapy in Washington State. But I know my friends that own brick and mortar clinics and have staff of like 100 and things like that. And it's a lot. Like it's a huge undertaking. So why did you do it? And like what roles did you have over your career that made you think like, yeah, I want to do this. I have this calling to do this?
So it's interesting. I actually always wanted to run a camp. I'm a camp person. I love camp. And my dad is a business guy. He understands business. And I always wanted to teach. And I was a teacher for 10 years. I taught in Howard County Public Schools as a special ed teacher. And he always said, like, you're not running a camp. Like, we're not doing camp. Long story short, I started STEPS while I was teaching and then slowly left the school system. And, we started mostly in home. And my business partner and I, were noticing that a lot of people want in-home services or during the day services. The staff wanted to be able to work during the day. And I said, I really think children need to learn how to be in school. We were getting more and more calls of kids getting kicked out of preschool. They couldn't support them in preschool. While we were still trying to help them in preschool in an inclusion type model, I was like, let's do a clinic. Let's get it up and running. And that was really my dream, my goal. And so we opened our first clinic right at the tail end-ish of COVID, which was wild. And we just opened our third clinic 2 months ago.
Yeah, congratulations. That's amazing. A big undertaking. And I know that that is not an easy
They're
feat.
wild. They're
Yes.
busy. We've learned a lot. We've learned what works and we've learned what does not work. But, I really feel strongly that our kids, when they're in an environment that has the flexibility to allow them to be who they are, um, we have made them so that there are rooms where they can work one-on-one with their BCBAs and their RBTs, and then in small groups and then even larger groups as they can tolerate more and learn the skills necessary so that they're ready for school, which is our goal. Our goal is to get them into the proper school, at kindergarten or first grade, depending on the child. We are, it's not a hard line for us. We work very closely with the family and the school systems around town in Baltimore and in Maryland. And, we're very, very purposeful with that. We've got 2 gyms, we've got messy playrooms, we've got, a media room, a lunchroom. So there are components of the clinic that look like school,
Mhm.
even if it's not school, but we like to call it like a preschool prep program.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's a great idea. And my one friend that owns a brick and mortar here in the Cleveland area, they work with older learners, so usually kids who have behavioral barriers, and that's their least
Yes, for
restrictive
sure.
environment. But it is a school program. What's neat, when she bought that building, they actually bought an old school and they
That's
refurbished
cool.
it. So one side is like the therapy offices, and then the
That's
other
great.
side is the school. But what was so
Yeah.
neat is that there is a cafeteria for kids that can tolerate that, and there
Mhm.
is a playground, and there are those things, and a gym, and
Yep.
those things that when I've worked in other non-public programs before they got their nice shiny building, like at the Cleveland Clinic, they have that now.
Yeah.
But before, it's like you're trying to recreate all that, which is
Yes.
great because those kids deserve to have that school experience too.
They do.
And it's
And we
hard.
just
So
actually
that's
had a
cool.
graduation, because kids are going into kindergarten. And so we did. It was very cute. And I think that
Oh,
the families really appreciate it because,
yes.
one of the things that I felt very strongly, and I do feel very strongly, is thinking about the families as a whole and the parents and what they need. And sometimes what they need is normal family experiences. And that means a
Right.
preschool graduation or a moving up ceremony. And
Hmm.
we just did this on Friday for our kids that are finishing their early steps program and moving into wherever their next step is. And we work really hard with families and help them through the IEP process. And so we did a little graduation on Friday, and it was really
Oh.
adorable.
That's really nice because actually on my Instagram today, I'm going to have Kate Swenson on. She wrote Autism Out Loud with 2 other
Mhm.
autism moms, and she had a really nice quote in there about, families feel isolated when they
Right.
they have an autistic learner. I really think it depends on your region and your provider. So for
Yes.
you to offer that opportunity for parents is nice because they want to feel like they're getting those family routines and those
Yes.
milestones that they want to have and appreciate as a family. So thank you for doing
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
tell us about today. I know you guys offer a lot of different services, but I wanted to talk about your early steps program because I feel like that's something my audience would be interested in, either as people listening as providers or people that are thinking like, hey, I want to start my own clinic someday, or we want to offer this type of
Mhm.
program because it sounds really cool. So can you tell us about your early steps program?
Sure. So our program is for children that have just been diagnosed all the way through, like I said, kindergarten, first grade. We don't have a hard cutoff line because our goal is to get the kids into the school placement that is appropriate. I had mentioned that I was a special educator. Our clinical director is also a special educator. So we have a lot of those supports in place to help families navigate the IEP process. We will support them through the IEP process. We
Mm,
will help advocate and get them into the schools that are appropriate. So if their homeschool isn't appropriate, we will help the families navigate that IEP process. We've kept kids until they were quite a bit older so that they can get into the right school because we want to keep the momentum going for the kids and we don't want them in an environment where they're going to slide backwards.
yeah.
So The Early Steps program is a program meant for our kids to be successful in a school program or in a preschool prep program. We work really hard to ensure that they are working on the skills necessary to be successful in whatever environment is appropriate for them. And I want to be very
Mhm.
clear and intentional about that.
Right.
It's about their individual growth. And we are very, very thoughtful of that. We've had kids that, come in with very little language and come out talking and are ready for general education and they're
Wow.
speaking up a storm. And
Hmm.
we have other kids that, are, less vocal and are utilizing sign language. We have some that are utilizing, AAC devices and are very much, utilizing that as their mode of communication.
Hmm.
And so, depending on that and, behaviors, we take all of that we look at the big picture and we take all of that into consideration.
That's great. I love
Um,
that.
yeah. And then, we do, because we also provide in-home therapy, there's a balance. So our, 18-month-olds and our 2 year
Hmm.
olds, we think about it, those kids need naps and we know that. And so they are
Yes.
not there all day.
Yes. We're going to talk about
They get
that.
to go
That's
home and take
important.
naps.
Yes.
And so, depending on the kids and depending on the families, sometimes they come in the morning for a couple hours and they do therapy. And if families are having trouble at home and need some help in the home, they'll get therapy later in the day at home if
Hmm.
that's appropriate. Some
Right.
families they don't, and they just get therapy in the morning, and then it grows throughout as they get older. It just depends. We do our best to be as flexible as possible. Some kids go to school half day and then come to us the other half day.
Hmm.
We are flexible. We are not a this is what you have to do, kind of place.
Right. Yeah.
I was very, 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 I've been very, very dedicated to that
That's
since the
good.
start.
Yeah, because I get
Yeah.
all the horror stories of what's happening across the region. Yeah, because I'm here in Ohio, it's different, and I think parents don't understand. I know when I was seeing a client in home, they had a child I was seeing, and he wasn't speaking. He had a lot of behavioral barriers, so he did
Yeah.
start. He used his preschool time to go to ABA and to do special education preschool, and they had a
Mhm.
nice combination of services. And the parents, that was their first autistic child in the family, and they just didn't know if they were allowed to do that. So it was nice to like work with, I was a
Yes.
speech therapist. It was nice to work with the BCBA and the school district, and we put together a
Yeah.
nice plan. So I think that's what's important for parents and for other
Yeah.
providers is that it's individualized, that really is
Yes.
really, really important. So speaking
Yes.
of kind of getting what the student needs, what assessments do you use at intake for your early steps program? I'm always interested in like, what does that intake process look like? And what assessments are you using to give you those skills that the students need to strengthen?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it depends, obviously, on the age of the child, but we use anything and everything from the Vinland to the VB map, social skills checklist, the brief, the ABLES. It's really dependent, developmental checklist. It really is
Hmm.
dependent. And sometimes if, at the intake assessment,
Hmm.
just utilizing one assessment because there's only a certain amount of time to do at the
Sure.
intake.
Hmm.
A lot of times my BCBAs will utilize the VB map throughout treatment because
Right.
that does take time and
Hmm.
and so they will start, say, the VB map and then we'll continue it as, treatment and therapy progresses. And, so it really is dependent on the learner. Like I said, we have kids at all stages. We do see
Hmm.
kids up to 21.
Oh,
We've had some learners that are 26.
oh wow.
There are some insurances that
Yeah.
will take kids past 21 and we will work with them.
Oh, that's nice. Parents
So,
need that. So,
yeah.
how do you then determine intervention hours for each student? I feel like this is, I live in the online land of Instagram and I spend
Yeah.
way too much time there. I'm on
Yeah.
LinkedIn too. So, but that is one of the gripes about ABA is that I like that you talked about kids need a nap. That's always like really important, right? Like we want to
Yeah.
help the whole child, right? Like we
Yeah.
really get it that developmentally kids need to take a nap. This shouldn't be their full-time job. We hear
Yeah.
all the gripes, but I feel
Yeah.
like, I don't own my own ABA clinic, so I like to have smart people like you on who do. And
Yeah.
just tell us, how do you determine those intervention hours? Like, how is that? Do you guys have like because I know you offer other services as well, related services. So do you as a team talk asynchronously? Do you get together to do a case review? I know every clinic does it differently. What does that look like?
So it's tough. We have done a variety of things over the years. Our sister company is the Therapy Spot, and they have speech OT and PT.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually how I met my partner,
Hmm.
because I was driving through town and I saw the Therapy Spot, speech OT, PT, and I was like, huh, I think I need to meet these people.
Oh,
And we actually ended up in 2017 or 18 partnering.
oh, nice. Okay.
Um,
Cool.
and so it is challenging figuring out hours. We, at this point, it depends. We try and look at age, needs,
Hmm.
do they have significant behaviors? Do they have significant skill sets that need to be worked on? What
Hmm.
are the family dynamics? How much can the families actually commit to?
Right.
And then we also, I mean, I hate to say it, we look at the insurance company, because is
Right.
this an insurance company that is going to give us more if it's not successful? Or is this an insurance company that it's better to ask for a little bit more and then taper back? So
Right.
we take all of those things into consideration. We do tell families, and I hate having a hard line, but we've had to for logistical reasons.
Sure.
Say 10 to that they need to commit to 10 hours a week.
Hmm.
And the reasoning behind that is logistical. We have to be able to get staff and give them a job. Um,
Right.
and so if they don't have anything consistent, if a staff member can't have a consistent job,
Hmm.
then it's really hard for them to have work. And so it's been that. And we have found that with ABA, if there isn't consistent therapy, it's
Hmm.
really hard to make progress. So where we say that, and then of course, rules bend. So that's what we say.
Hmm.
And then rules bend. I would say on average, our clients receive 12 to 16 hours a week.
Okay.
Of course, we have kids that are receiving 35 hours a week, 30 hours
Hmm.
a week, and then we have kids that are receiving less. So
Right.
it's so individualized.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
So tell us, I see that you offer speech, occupational therapy, and physical therapy, which is great. And it sounds like maybe that's in collaboration with the Therapy Spotter. That's your
Yes.
partner now. But
Yes.
what is that? What do those services look like within your early steps program? So are those two different locations? Or are the kids able to get ABA and speech or OT all
Yeah.
in the same
Yep.
spot?
Yep. They're at our clinic.
Oh,
So
cool.
the speech OT and PTs therapists are at our clinics. We all collaborate. It is challenging and crazy and fun all at the same time. We have a consistent speech pathologist at our Towson clinic who our staff work with. And I say consistent because she has an office in the clinic and she services all of those kids in our early steps program. At our Pikesville, our other location, that's where the Therapy Spot's main location was. And the
Hmm.
way that the clinics are set up is there happen to be in the same office building, but
Oh,
they're split.
yeah.
So the kids kind of walk between the clinics,
Hmm.
and they see multiple different therapists.
Okay.
So it just depends. We have a big communication board using a CRM program, and they collaborate VO that way. The therapists collaborate.
Oh, nice.
We meet often. Sometimes speech and OT will meet and ABA will bounce out.
Hmm.
Sometimes if behaviors are need to be in there, collaborate in, speech and ABA will co-treat, and sometimes it's OT and ABA will collaborate. Um, I wouldn't say it's always a perfect balance. It's not. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard. And it
Yeah.
depends. Oftentimes, it's the RBT doing co-therapy with the
Hmm.
speech pathologist or the OT,
Yep.
which is also hard because they have a different level of training.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. It's tough.
but we've done some amazing things. I have a speech pathologist right now who is working with a BCBA, who is working with a client on PECs and teaching the team PECs, and it's working really, really, really
Wow.
well.
Yeah.
We've had kids, learning sign, and everybody's learning sign, and we've got the signs up through the building, and so it can and does work really, 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 really well, a lot of the time, and other times, as you know, can be challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good though, because I feel like some clinics say they offer all the disciplines, but when you really kind of get into it and you start talking about the company culture, you're like, that doesn't really sound very collaborative. So I think that's nice that, not everything's going to be perfect, but we
It's
have
not.
different training. And so I think our goal is always to help the client, and the way that we go about it sometimes is different. But I love those examples. And, I had Lori Frost on, who was a co-creator of PAX on
Yeah,
first season, and she's great.
yeah,
She's a friend of ABA speech, but it's
so
just so
good.
neat to. Andy
Yeah,
Bondi was her school psychologist. I believe that's
that's
how the
right.
story goes. And Lori Frost is
Yep,
a speech therapist. And that is like how they started PECS,
it's
which is
how
in
they started
18
it.
countries. So
That's right.
yay. Thank you, Lori and Andy. I love that.
Right. Thanks for the good
It's nice.
collaboration and
It's nice.
showing us all how to do it.
Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, this works. I'm always like that with speech therapy. I'm like, oh my God, look, the kid's talking now. I mean, after 20 plus years, you still are like, wow. But I think it goes to say, like, it's a science, both what we do, both fields, speech and ABA, but it's also very nuanced. And I think some of the hardest things when you're trying to provide naturalistic instruction, like you say, it's like a lot of the things that we talk about are very nuanced. And I, having 20 plus years in the field, being both a speech therapist and BCBA, might respond to something that a student does a little bit differently, just because I've had so many
Yes.
touch points. I've been in so many therapy sessions. I've
Yeah.
been in so many CEUs and done so much research. But I think that's what we really try to do at ABA Speech and the ABA Speech Connection, is to try to bring all that research and all that experience that we've had in the
Yes.
field to people that are in the trenches, so that when you're in those different therapeutic moments, that you have new ideas, that you're thinking about some of those nuanced things, because it is kind of like an art form, I feel like,
Yes.
especially with younger clients, and how to, react to their communicative attempts. And it's just really nuanced. So I think it's great
Yeah.
that you make it
We,
so individualized.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did in a training a while ago, and this is something that I learned from a speech pathologist that I worked with eons ago when I was teaching. And remember, as a brand new teacher, and I wasn't even a BCBA at the time, but trying to figure out how to utilize an AAC device, because I was
Right.
clueless,
Right.
was utilizing core language on it. She told me, she was like, take the kid's device home and write down every sentence and every single thing you can do utilizing core language for the
Mm-hmm.
weekend. She's like, every single thing you can do, just and I did. And it was a life-changing experience for me because I got it. I figured it out. And so we did a
Yeah.
training several years ago where we did the same thing. They had to play, they had to do an
Right.
activity, and utilize these like 20 words, and
Hmm.
they had to figure out what they could say with the 20 words or the 40 words or whatever it is that we gave them. And
Right.
it was powerful. And many of them were like, oh, I understand now.
Yeah, well, I think people are afraid of AAC. I've always thought that would be like a nice thing for, I think it would make all the speech therapists mad, but to do a certification in AAC for BCBAs,
Yeah.
because, and for speech therapists too, because if
Yeah.
you're immersed in AAC, you're immersed in AAC, but if you're not, you're
Correct.
not. And that's the thing. I felt
Right.
that way with Prenke Romick and the LAMP vocabulary. I was
Hmm.
like, what is going on here? I don't
Yeah.
get it at all. But then I just took time to go in, and it's
You
like, if
have
you
to
don't
spend time.
understand what's
Right.
in the device, I mean, it could take just an hour, but when you're in the trenches and you're seeing clients and it's all billable time
Right.
or whatever it is, you feel
Right.
like you don't have that time. And so that is
That's
powerful to
exactly right.
go in, feel comfortable, because how can I, as the adult, help prompt a student to communicate what we think they might want to
Well, if you
communicate if
don't
we
even
don't
know where
know?
the words are on the board.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, when I was
Exactly.
teaching, I had two kids utilizing an eye gaze device,
Oh,
and it
wow.
was I
Yes.
had to learn it. I
Right.
had to.
Yes.
How else was I going to
Right. Oh, that's
if I
cool.
didn't
Yeah.
know? So I was
Yeah.
lucky. I've worked with some amazing speech pathologists,
Yeah. That's
and I think
nice.
that that's one of the reasons why I really was dedicated to finding a company to partner with that believed in the collaboration, because while it's hard and there are people that fight it, I know that you know that,
Yeah,
um, it's so important. Like
it
we need
is.
everybody's um, everybody's brains around how to help some of these kiddos because they're complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. So tell me, what is one piece of advice that you would give professionals working with younger learners?
Don't forget to play. I really think that, kids like to play. Don't take yourself so seriously.
Right.
Um, I think some people get so nervous and so wrapped up in all of the, nuances of ABA and the nuances and all the things we're supposed to do every day, all the time.
Hmm.
But like if you take a step back and remember, like we're here for kids and we like to play, and that's why we got into this. Um, Good therapy is going to happen through that natural play.
Yeah.
And I think that the other thing is, I know you asked for one piece, but I'm going to give another one, is to keep learning as a professional. Don't forget to keep pouring into yourself because
Hmm.
there's so much to learn. And I think that, as we grow, um, things change and you have to keep refreshing and learning because if not, it gets stale and boring.
Absolutely. And I think that will be good. In 2026, I know we've been gearing up for that in the ABA Speech Connection. RBTs are also going to have to get
Yeah,
CEUs.
they
So
sure are.
I do think that is hard, but I do think it's important because we do need to always grow and learn. And as research comes out and we need to implement that research into
Yeah,
our practice, I do think even CEUs, where if you're doing them internally or you're able to go to a conference, it gives you that time away from what you're actually doing to actually
I always,
think about.
yes,
Maybe when I go to conferences, I always think like, okay, this is this one problem I have with my caseload, or this one kid I feel like I'm not reaching, and I'm going to learn about what can I do to help reach this one learner or
exactly.
whatever it is. Or
Yeah,
maybe your data needs to be more organized, or you want to focus more on play, or you don't feel good with
yeah,
AAC. And so I think in the ABA Speech Connection, I know you offer some of those things too internally. It's important for us to have that time away from the actual therapy to reflect on
yeah.
what we're doing, right?
It's very true. I mean, I think that I agree that, going to conferences or even vacation, God forbid we take a vacation,
Right.
it's our time to think and our time to, develop and get creative. And, it's very, very important. We have a program called Steps University, and we have been developing professional development for our BCBAs and for our RBTs who want to become BCBAs. We have a mentorship program, and we are hoping and we see, we've started really having a lot of trainings where we see, our staff in there come away with, oh, I can use this, I can try this. And, going into the clinics, a week later, you see
Hmm.
them trying different things and
That's cool.
we get to come and model and it's fun.
That's great. I love that. So, where can people find out more about you and your work?
So they can go onto our website, www.stepsbh.com. They can also go on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Our Instagram is Steps Behavioral Health, same with Facebook and LinkedIn. And they can always email me at Erin at stepsbcba.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Erin. It was great to connect.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Rose.